Welcome back to the Wise Divine Women podcast, where we help you go from fed up to faith fueled, helping you to become the wise divine women that you've been called to be. Today, I have Riana Malia. I am so excited to learn about her purpose, passion, and journey. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here.
Wonderful. So you make clarity clear for people. You clear clarity. Really. And it's so important because so many women like myself in our age of wisdom, that's what I call it, the age of wisdom, are really looking for definition and defining, because it is this momentum that we create that's shifting changes, and we want to fill our heart's desires. So why this journey for you?
So, I love that you started with that, because it is like my work is the clear to create, right? So we clear, we create, and we claim. But before we can clear anything, we have to get crystal clear, to your point. And I'll tell you how I got here in a minute, but I just wanted to, because you brought that up so beautifully. Most people, when we ask them, what do you want? Between now and death, what do you want? Some people will say, oh, I'm pretty clear about that. I know this. Some people will say, I have absolutely no idea. I've spent my entire life kind of taking care of everyone and everything. I don't even know how to answer that. And what I see so often, especially in high capacity women, is this almost getting there. They almost get there, whether it's health, wealth, relationships, but then there's this thing that stops them. And what I find is that level of clarity and specificity, they've never been asked the questions that way. So I liken it to if we went to dinner together and the server came by and said, what can I bring you, ladies? And we said, well, we're thirsty. Let's start with a salad, some protein, and a lovely vegetable. Fantastic. So they bring us an iced tea and a Caesar salad and a lovely piece of roasted salmon and some glazed carrots. And we got exactly what we asked for. Percent. The issue is we wanted a sparkling water with an arugula salad with fresh figs and goat cheese and maybe some beets and a piece of halibut with roasted asparagus. That's the difference. That's the level of clarity that most of us don't have, because we aren't being asked from that values level position. How did I get here? Well, my parents met in Maui, got married, born, divorced. My father went to California. Mom and I went to Minnesota. I was blessed to have the most incredible grandparents in the world. So I got to grow up in a horse barn in a tiny town in southern Minnesota in the summers. Was going off to college. My father said, hey, listen, I never helped you, your mom, you had another family. I'll take care of room and board for freshman year. Great. Go off to college. A couple months in, I get a call. They're like, yeah, your bill was never paid. You're maxed on loans. You either have to pay this bill or you have to move out. So I was 18. My mom had actually just moved to another country. And so I was like, okay, what do I do? I could leave school, but what am I going to do? I'm not going to move to Canada. So I got 3 jobs. I rented a 5-bedroom house. I filled the other bedrooms. I did my thing. And although I couldn't articulate it at that point, there was 2 things that happened. Number one, evidence that I wasn't very important and I didn't really matter. And the understanding that when we're faced with stuff that we don't really know how we're going to figure out or get through or get to the other side, we often think it's the lack of resources that keep us stuck, right? Lack of time, money, energy, support. But really, it's about tapping into the part of us that's the resourcefulness, because it's in every single one of us. But we get so caught up in the external that we forget that it's there. So I did my thing, and then I got married at the very ripe old age of 23. I highly recommend you don't do that. My baby girl is 22, graduating from college in a month. No, there's just zero way. So anyway, married too young. It was very lonely. A lot of variables there. Had our miracle child. Divorced when she was 6. It was fine. And then it wasn't, got very volatile. Maddie and I were living in this tiny little town in Minnesota called Afton, which is a river town that separates Minnesota from Wisconsin, in a 100-year-old cottage. And we had horses and we had chickens and we had this pond that every summer on Sundays I would dye blue. So it looked like the ocean, and she would float around in her floaty. I'm an island girl. I'm not meant for winter, but I grew up in Minnesota. So my father, who had been, in and out, and let me tell you, he's very charming and he's brilliant in so many ways. He's also like the complete definition of a narcissist. So it's always the next big thing.
Right.
He came to visit in April. April is supposed to be spring. We had just gotten 17 inches of snow. And it was so cold that the metal handle on the pump snapped off. So in order to water the horses, I had to run a hose into the house, to the laundry machine, the wash. I mean, it was a mess. I was over it. So he said, I think it's time I think it's the perfect time. You should move to California. And of course, my initial thought is, yeah, right. I said, look, I'm not moving across the world for one of your next big deals.
Right.
And I'm not going to disrupt Maddie's life more than once. She was 9. I moved around a lot as a little girl. It's hard. You don't feel settled. You don't feel like you get to be a child. And my mom, and remember, they'd been divorced for 30 some years at that point. She did nails for a living, and she had a surgery on her neck, and they nicked a nerve and she couldn't use her arm. So we had all these variables. And he said, no problem. I'll build a barn, bring your mom. We'll take care of her. Here's the financials. Just come take over this family business. Maddie gets to grow up in this beautiful little town at the base of Mount Dan, and it's all going to be good. And so every part of me was screaming, don't do this. Don't do this. Don't do this. But it felt like we want what we want, right? And the idea of a relationship with my father that I'd always really longed for, getting out of the freaking 40-degree below zero weather, Maddie getting to grow up in the ocean. So I moved my mom, daughter, 2 horses, and 3 cats across the country. And besides a cousin, I didn't know a single person here. The first few months kind of felt like a fairy tale. Weekends with the horses, family dinners. It was great. And then the morning after her 10th birthday, so December 1st, my father had left to go take like girlfriend number 1500 and her weird kids back to South Dakota, wherever they were from. And I was in the studio and I heard some noise and I kind of looked around, and all of a sudden there was all these people coming in the front door, mostly men with guns drawn, pointed at me. And I was put in handcuffs and sat on a chair. And my first thought was, my mom's going to be home in 20 minutes with my little girl and her very first new friend from school. I have to call her. And they're like, you're not calling anyone. They start asking me questions. So without spending the next 16 hours telling you the story, I ended up in the middle of this insane DEA investigation where all of this stuff was going on. Clearly, I didn't know anything about, which they knew, but also, were very clear. Like, you could lose Maddie. You could be like the worst things you could ever say to a mama.
Right.
So the aftermath of that was long, but the important piece is, number one, this relationship that I had wanted with my dad, gone. Number 2, all the assets were frozen. I now had no income and no money. And number 3, now I have to make a decision. Do I take us back to Minnesota? I mean, I couldn't bring the horses and all of that, but do I just take us back to Minnesota, back into our life? Or do I keep my promise to Maddie and break generations of lack of integrity? So at the end of the day, that's what I decided. So we stayed, and several $100,000 in debt later and doing all the things. But in the course of that, just like after my divorce, I did the things that we're all told to do. I talked about it in therapy. I wrote the letters that I didn't send. I read books. I talked about it with my girlfriends. And while all of those things are beneficial, at a certain point, the more you just stay in the story, right? It lives in our body. So there's no way to move forward. I also decided this would be a brilliant time to start dating for the first time since I got divorced. So, I'd been here a couple years. I was like, well, I'm not getting any younger. I went on the dating app, first time, a million things. People are crazy. And I went on a date. Went on another date. I went on another date, and then I went on a second date. And I had that same feeling, Jana, in my gut that was like, this person is not a good person. This is not very safe. But I also had so much evidence that clearly something's wrong with me, right? My first husband, my dad, other relationships, like maybe it's me. Maybe my expectations are too high. Maybe my, whatever, all the things we tell ourselves. So I got into a very abusive relationship. And it was thankfully not physically abusive, but in all the other ways. And it took me a lot longer than it should have, or that I wished that I could to get out of it, a couple of years. And at the end of that, that was my line in the sand. That was my catalyst, because I said, never again. Never again will I make myself small so someone else feels secure. Never again will I feel like I'm crazy because every single comment is really, a cut dressed in a joke. And never again will I be in a relationship where I feel like I'm told that I'm too much and not enough. And you just, I'd rather just be alone. I was way lonelier inside of that relationship where I felt upset and sad and crazy all the time. So I'm like, I'm good. I'm going to be Maddie's mama. I'm going to do my thing in the world. But I also had this sense like, there has to be a better way. Like, I'm sick of my story. Like, I don't want to talk about it again and I don't need to unpack it for the 15th time. And it was around that time that I found something that then kind of became the basis or became my life's work. Because in a matter of weeks, not months or years, there was part of me that I didn't even recognize anymore in the best ways. And all
Right.
of that rage and sadness and betrayal, it was just gone. It was no longer mine to carry. Fully forgiving my father, but that didn't mean he got a seat at the table, right? I hadn't spoken to him in 10 years. He doesn't get access. But rather than having that be my identity and that emotion being constantly replayed and that traumatic neurology coursing through my body every day, not mine to carry. It no longer defined me. So that brought me to creating this work, and I created it for me first. And on the other side of that work, I've been married to the greatest love of my life that I never thought would happen for me, and have had the honor to do this work with, touch thousands of lives. So that brings us here today.
Perfect. I love it. And it is the journey, right? It's the journey, it's the experiences and the ability to get through that, define who you are today and now the mission and purpose of your life, right? And so many women are caught in that cycle, like so
Mhm.
many women, right? It's, not only just generational and then it's teenagering when you're a teenager and you don't know better and all these different things because we have different priorities, we have different expectations, we've been taught different things. So it is stepping back. I think no matter what age you are, it is stepping back in that self realization and understanding goals, right? And having that clarity, which is so important. So important.
So when we're talking about like the clarity and the clearing, I think it's really important to share that, when you talk about teenager, my thing has always been, I want you to live your very best life, right? So whether we've been best friends for 20 minutes or 20 years, I want you to live your version of that. And it's a little different for every single one of us. But you can't just go from childhood stuff and teenage trauma and failed relationships and failed businesses and friendships that you thought would last forever. That was your chosen sister. And all of a sudden they're not in there. Like, all of that stuff is trauma. And you can't just go from that to living your very best life, right? We have to clear before we can create. We have to clear the story to create the life. So many people say to me, I want a different story. And I say, great, stop telling the old one first and foremost. And we have to clear the cycles to create the confidence, right? So everything in life is cyclical. And it's really interesting when you look at that, like 7 to 9 years, like what's showing up. But the problem is all of those cycles that again provide evidence, it kills our confidence because we say to ourselves, well, I thought I knew and I was really sure this time. And look how that turned out. So I don't know. I don't trust my own decision making.
So, how can we clear ourselves out of this chaos life that we've created for ourselves?
Yeah. Well, the beautiful thing is, and I think it would be super helpful just to talk for a minute about the difference between the conscious and the unconscious mind. So if we think about our body, everything from the neck up is our conscious mind. It's everything we know, all of our critical faculties. It's our goals that we use it all day long. It's about 10%, which means everything from the neck down, the rest of our body, the other 90%, is the unconscious mind. So if the conscious is our goal setter, the unconscious is the goal getter. It's the operating system. It's the general. But most importantly, it is the literal library of everything we've ever experienced in this entire life, everything you've ever felt, everything you've ever said to another person. All of that emotion is held at a cellular level. And yes, we know memory lives in the circuitry of the brain, but we know now, science, that memory is cellular, right? We see it all the time. We see it in generational stuff. We see it in animals. We see it in organ transplants. somebody that hated pickles their whole life and now craves them every day and finds out that the person's kidney or heart or whatever, that was their favorite food, right? And when we don't release that properly, and by properly, I mean not going back into the story and the trauma that caused the pain and the problem in the first place, then we see things manifest in our physical body: anxiety, overwhelm, depression, confusion, illness, injury, disease, physical weight that we can't release, because for women, our bodies are very different than men. And when our nervous system feels unsafe or dysregulated, it's going to hold on to everything. So, no matter what we're doing, that's going to hold on to that stuff. So once we get that clarity, then we can actually do a dysfunction detox energetically and get rid of all that stuff that's no longer serving you, that's keeping you stuck, that's keeping you from the life and the love that's meant for you.
Mm-hmm.
But that means we got to blow out all the old strategy and neurology and behavior and ways of thinking and reacting and all those patterns that keep us from having the partnerships that we really want, and actually keep putting us back into the same situations over and over. And I see that so often. People will come to me and say, I've done a ton of work. Like, this is not my first rodeo in personal development and self-help. I've done therapy for years and I make progress and I have some good ahas and I feel really good about it. And then this thing happened and it was like, bam, I went back to the person I was 12 years ago and I don't understand why. Well, a lot of this work does give you those ahas and the awareness and the clarity. And you're like, oh my God, this is amazing. Now I know this about myself. But if you blow all of that out and we don't replace the neurology, then you just end in this maddening loop that says, great, now I know it. What do I do with it? You didn't give me the skills. You didn't replace it to go with the knowledge. And then that's more evidence that it's not going to work for you. You're not worthy of this. You don't finish what you start. You don't say what you're going to, you don't do what you say, all the chatter. The whole piece about people saying, I keep marrying the same person over and over, or I keep dating the same person in a different body, or I keep ending up in the same dynamic in every single company that I work for. The boss always hates me. I never find a parking spot. Like, all of the levels of that way of thinking. And it's important because every day, like, we think a ridiculous amount of thoughts, like 70, 85,000 thoughts, and 90% of them are recycled. So they're the same things we thought about yesterday and last night at 3:00 in the morning and last month and last year. And the issue there is 75% of those thoughts are negative. I get a lot of pushback on that because my clients are brilliant, intelligent women. They're like, no, I am so good on mindset. I've done all the mindset things. But what you don't realize is the way that our brains are wired, that most often you're focused on the things you don't want instead of what you do. I don't want to be in this financial position. I don't want to be in another relationship where I feel dismissed. I don't want to be in another relationship where I feel like I have to, take care of them and carry it all. I don't want to be in this job that I hate. I don't. Well, the unconscious mind doesn't hear the qualifiers. All it knows is what you're focused on. And that's why those same things continue to show up in your life over and over and over again. So back to your question of how do we do it? There's a lot of ways, but probably one of my favorites is something that I do called quantum time release. And it's about a 3-hour session, 2 or 3 hour session. And it's a completely unconscious process. Now, that does not mean you're unconscious. You're chill and comfy, fully awake, but we're tapping into that unconscious mind where all of it lives so that we can clear it in a way that's painless and peaceful. And what we're clearing are 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 years of the charge in our body. So if you think about every one of those negative emotions, anger, sadness, fear, guilt, shame, and then all of those limiting beliefs that we've picked up along the way, they all have their own ribbon. And every time we have a significant emotional experience, a marble goes on the ribbon, right? So marbles, 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 they all have their own ribbon. So today something happens that makes us feel angry or shame or whatever. It's not the today thing, it's the 50 years of marbles behind it. And that charge is what you're holding on to. That charge is what's living in your body. And every time you reactivate that, your body experiences it as though it's happening again and again and again. So we get to release that. And then what happens is all of that energetic weight is gone. And now you have space to call in what's meant for you. It's like a pantry. So I just turned 50 and I have a little perimenopause and a little ADD, and I really love organized things, and also shit piles up around me and I just want to close the door and like, I just can't deal with it, right? So my pantry was a perfect expression of this, and it was full of stuff. And I took everything out and I put it all over the kitchen. It was comical. And I cleaned out the pantry, and then I was going through stuff, and there was like expired pasta sauce and half open boxes of orzo and crackers from who knows when. And all that expired stuff I threw away. And then what was good, I put back, and it was organized and made me feel like Christmas. It's the same here. It all starts with those thoughts, right? The thoughts mix with our physiology and become our state, which generate our emotions and then our behavior, and that becomes our life. So when we can release the energetic weight of all the negative of the gestalt, now you get to actually receive and replace all of that with what it is you want for yourself in your life. Does that make sense?
That makes perfect sense. Absolutely. Yes. And it is these tedious details that just weigh us down, that's really serve no purpose when you're trying to achieve a better goal or trying to achieve and overcome something, or you've set a business guideline or a business expectation, and it seems to just keep hitting a wall, right?
Mhm.
And
Yes.
so when you need to have breakthrough, it is because you're sort of like cleaning out the drawers, getting rid of the plastics, or going through your closet of things so that you pick out and choose the things that serve the best and make you feel more whole as a woman. So yeah.
Yes. And then when we do that, then we get to answer the question of like, who are you now? Who are you now at this phase of life? Away from, mom or wife or CEO or business owner or sister or whatever. Like, who are you without all of the labels and the noise and the society? Just like, who are you at the core? And once we start to figure that out, then we get to create that, right? And I love that you were talking about goals, because oftentimes, what do they say? I don't know. 95% of goals never actually get achieved. And when we're thinking about goals and we go, okay, so today is today. Here's the goal date. Here's the thing. What do I need to do? I need to do this and this and this and this. Okay, amazing. Why do most of them never get accomplished? Well, the unconscious mind can't fill in the blank that way. So what I do is I take it and we reverse engineer it. And it does a couple of things. Number one, you have an experience in your brain of what it feels like in the moment before you've achieved it. So just for an easy one, let's say it was a trip. Where would you love, if you go anywhere in the world right now, where would it be?
Oh gosh, I don't know. Just time at our cottage, to be honest. Let's say Cancun or something.
Okay. So let's say that one of your goals is by December 31st, 2026 or sooner, I'm celebrating booking this fabulous trip to Cancun, right? Hanging out in the Mayan Riviera in Mexico. So excited. And so I would ask you in the second before you could call me and say, okay, Riana, my trip is booked. I'm so excited. What has to happen? Well, maybe you got an email from your travel advisor and you saw it on your phone, right? And here's your itinerary, and here's your flights, and here's your villa, and here's all the things. So then I would ask you to lean into what that feels like. Close your eyes. What do you see? What do you hear? Is there someone with you? What do you smell? Because, again, the brain doesn't know the difference between something that's actually happened and something that we can visualize with all the senses, which then ignites that reticular activating system in the brain to now be looking for the experiences, the people, the resources, the opportunities, the magazine article you wouldn't have noticed before, that makes sure that you actually get to achieve this and not just spend the rest of your life wishing. And then we take that all the way back till today by asking that question. What has to happen just before that? What has to happen just before that? And so now when life comes at you, because it will, you don't have to worry about, I have no idea what to do next. You literally have the entire thing right there. You just look down and do the next thing. And once we've done that, then we get to move into the claim phase, which is where you get to own and integrate and embody this next level, this version of you that's free from all the stuff and all the noise and all the old heavy crap that was keeping you stuck. And this is where you don't You don't need any outside validation of, is this the right thing? Is this person a good choice? Is this a red flag or am I being crazy? And you get to fall in love with yourself again and you get to fully trust yourself and you get to hold boundaries and express your needs and really deepen the richness with every single relationship that you choose to keep in your life. And then when you integrate that into your energy, your decisions, your relationships, your health, your work, then you start to embody her and you just get to live from this new frequency and magnetize with grace. And literally this next level version of you, it's who you are now. It's not
Right.
it's not a temporary thing. It's not, I'm going to try this on. It's literally who you are and how you move through the world.
I love that. I love that. I love how you just simplify things and make things sound just so beautiful, right? It's a lot of work. Like, let's be realistic. It's a lot of work. And for those who haven't gone down the path of therapies or down the rabbit hole of trauma and things like that, it can be, a really enlightening experience. But once you've done that, and I say that to clients often, I mean, I'm not their first person that they've seen, and it's the repeating of the things, especially when it comes to illness or aches and complaints. They're constantly repeating it. So I'm always like, you have to stop. This, you can't keep pouring and repeating it because it does sit in the cells. The emotional trauma of things sit in the cells, sit in the organs, sit in the body, holding us back. And then we create this protective barrier around us as well, right? As we're trying to heal our bodies. So it is opening up those ideas. And with quantum, I love quantum. Quantum is, for some people, it's not woo woo. It's not this crazy thought process in sort of that. In faith world, praying for people experiences quantum energy and quantum healing because you're sending things spirit to spirit. And that works. We know it works. And then when we're working from a quantum sense of things, you're lifting things out of the body in the sense that are beyond ourselves and working through these things. And it's again, this beautiful opportunity that presents itself, especially when women feel stuck, right? Especially when they keep hitting walls. It's sitting down and going through the process through a relaxation and breathing and revelation, and then going through the therapies that you do, which is amazing, right?
And I'm sure that you experience this, you alluded to it all the time. I don't know about you in your world, if you've ever done therapy. I know in my 20s, I did quite a lot of it. And in my early 30s, I remember, having been with a therapist for quite some time and I felt like she got me, we were good. And then all of a sudden she moved to another state. And the thought of freaking telling someone else all of that, I was like, forget it. I'm never doing it again. Like that would take forever. And I think that keeps a lot of women from seeking because they feel like I'm going to have to tell the whole story. Now, if you're listening and you're experiencing this, let me give you a pro tip. My next therapist told me I was brilliant. I wrote everything in a document and sent it off before. And I said, charge me for an appointment, but don't see me unless you've read all of this because I'm not going to tell the story again.
Right.
But the beautiful thing about this work is we're not going to tell you. I don't even let you tell the story. It's irrelevant. We don't need the story to take this next level of healing and get rid of what's the residue. We don't need the story. So there isn't that anxious, heavy of, I'm going to have to tell this person all this stuff. The thing that happened when I was 5 and then when I was 20 and then my divorce and none of it.
It'd be great if someone was just a mind reader. It's
Wouldn't
just
that
like,
be great?
yeah, just touch our head. Okay. This is what you need to do. But life doesn't work that way.
No.
And there are some really great therapies out there that do aid in that, in the holistic world, but it's not magic like that. And it is a process. So yeah, it's always so interesting. And no, I don't think I've really done therapy. I've always thought inwardly about things. And then now at 57, I step back and I question things differently.
Mhm.
And I'm always, oh, I wonder if that really affected me this way. I wonder if that's why I'm like this. But I pause and I breathe and let it go and, ask forgiveness, forgive myself, and just move on because it doesn't serve a purpose now. It always just like, oh, I wonder. Oh, I wonder. So at some point, but it's again just understanding yourself and your needs, right? And what your vision is. And if you're having difficulty doing that, then it is that sort of finding the person like you to have clarity, right? And being able to create a plan.
And that really does, when we talk about that, it really does start with values first, right? Without things that cannot be. And whether we're talking about life in general or relationships or whatever, really diving deep into values for you. And then the non-negotiables that are actually non-negotiable, not this is non-negotiable, but then, but I'm 50 and I don't, I'm not getting younger. And maybe this thing that I said was non-negotiable isn't that bad and it'll probably get better. Like getting really clear on what the non-negotiables are. And that's really it. And then the desires piece, which is often the hardest for many people to go into that place of like the magic and the fairy dust and the forehead kisses in the kitchen or whatever it is for you that makes you feel loved and thought of and cherished. Because for so many women, they're like, I don't know. I've never had it. And that becomes such an important part of the work. So creating your menu, which is unique to you, is the most important step before anything else.
Yeah, it's so true. And I think that's the problem. Even for women, a lot of women feel they don't deserve. And a lot of people, we have these, I don't deserve that. I haven't earned it. We have these perspectives in our value, right? What does that look like for women? And that's a hard hurdle to overcome, right? Understanding value and worth.
Yes.
Beyond just the monetary value or how many dishes we wash or how many loads of laundry we do and how clean the house is. That's not it.
Right.
What we think of inside of our heart, right? I love it. I think it's fantastic. And do you find that women have such great sort of revelation when they're done their session? They have like this sort of spark or aura about them in change?
Well, it's fun. So all my work is private, except I'm going to just throw this out there. If you're a woman in the Bay Area, I do a brilliance brunch here every couple months in Marin, where I bring together incredible, heart-led professional women who want to have genuine, incredible conversations. Outside of that, all my work is private. And so the kind of the intensive, it's like 6 or 8 weeks, very, very fast. But that session, that quantum time release session, I love, and I don't ever I send everybody everything except for that because we don't want to reinstall any of it. But the physical difference in when we start afterwards is wild. And that next 72 hours of like integration and, what comes up and what like ideas that people are like, I don't even know where this came from. And it becomes their new path or just things that come to them that they would never have been able to process or think or ideate because the possibility wasn't there. So yes, that is so much fun to be a part of and experience and watch. And it's just so much joy, when you talk about that worthiness piece, like at the beginning, we really look at like what's underneath it all that's driving the uns and the lesses, right? Powerless, hopeless, unlovable, unworthy, all the things that the voice in our head says. And those are all the things that in a very short amount of time, that's just gone. Hello, puppy. Hello, puppy. Would you like to join the conversation?
They are being just delightful creatures today. I don't know. Anyways, it's all good. He won't stop, so that's fine. But I love the analogy of the marbles, to be honest with you, because, when you have that little pendulum thing with the marbles on the end of the strings, when you move one, it moves them all. So, and again, it's this build up of things we hold on to or strongholds or, denial about things and all the sort of negative things that we create in our lives. And when you add another, it perpetuates and has an effect on everything else. And even when you add one to the bunch, it just retangles everything. So I understand that was a perfect analogy of how you thought you got rid of it, but not really. And then when you add one more stressor, everything else just starts to move as well. That was wonderful. Yeah, it's very nice. So, what are in your plans for the future?
Ooh, that's a fun question. Yeah. My plans for the future are continuing to be able to have as much impact as I can from podcasts, from stage, from my private work. This work is so powerful because it's not just about the woman. It affects everything, her family, her future of her grandchildren, her community, her friendships, like it just has so much impact and ripple effect. I mentioned my daughter's graduating from college in a month, which is wild.
Yes.
I have a really fun offer that I put together for the woman that wants to do this work in a really short amount of time in a very bougie environment. It's called The
Yes.
Arrival. So we go for 3 days away somewhere amazing together. And it's like everything you could ever think of.
Intensive.
It's handled before you could think of it, 5-star, everything, all designed around you and like when you want to do rest and stuff. So that's really fun.
That's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's, just being able to continue to do this work and be connected with incredible women that I get to serve.
I love it. I love it. Yes. Bougie is best. No, just
Yeah.
kidding. It's because you want them pulled out of their
Yes.
environment and treated like a queen so that they can then encapsulate the change and have a more effective transformation.
Yeah.
That's
And in 3
brilliant.
days, we get to do what we would normally do together over the 6-ish weeks. It's then the neurology, it's not even like you're going to be able to know faster. You're not even available for the bullshit anymore. It just doesn't even enter. So that is an incredible experience.
That's beautiful. So, what is a word of wisdom that you use often or that you may share with others?
A word of wisdom. Does it have to be one word?
No, no, no. Phrase.
I think what I really want everybody to understand is no matter where you are, no matter how old or young, like you're not too old, you're not too late, you're not too broken, you don't have too much baggage. Whatever has been up until this moment literally has no bearing on what could be for you. Like it actually can change in the blink of an eye. And all of the sadness or the regret of I missed my chance, I just invite you to release that idea and be open to the fact that actually the timing is divine and you had to go through all the yuck to get to the good. And that if you're feeling that like pull, like I don't know, this old identity that I was so attached to doesn't really feel like me anymore. It's information. Let
Yeah,
that excite you.
exactly. And that's what this age of wisdom is about,
Yeah.
right? It's creating and capturing your divine. It's moving into wisdom and thought and purpose and passion. And I love that. I love that. And I love that you provide that for women in such a very unique and incredible way.
Thank you.
And I think it's incredible. I think it's just very special, very special. So where can everyone find you, Rihanna?
Absolutely. On all the socials, Instagram, Substack, LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, there's so many at Riana Malia. Of course, my website is the same, rianamalia.com. But I'd love to leave everyone with a gift, if that's okay.
Okay.
Okay. So I have something that I've developed over the years called the Extraordinary Love Index, which we lovingly refer to as the Ellie. And the Ellie answers the question, what is actually standing between you and extraordinary love? Not just romantic love, starting here, right? All the love. And what's amazing about this is that this is a legit like diagnostic. So it's not a 5-question, what Disney princess are you? So give yourself space, a good 10, 15 minutes when you take it so you can answer it thoughtfully because it's about 40 questions. And then what I send you is this 28-page personalized report based on everything that you said, looking at 9 key areas: impact, awareness, recognition, trauma, communication, all the things. And it's going to show you what might be showing up in your life. What's the cost of you for staying there? And what can you do right now to actually move yourself toward who you are and who you're becoming? And everyone in the world should take the Ellie. And I look at I look at all the data, I look at all the responses, and it's just so interesting to see some of those patterns and through lines, especially with women like us, right? That what shows up. But it's such an incredible piece of reflective insight for you, no matter where you are in relationship with yourself, with others, etc. So I really encourage and invite all of you to go take the LE and then come back and tell us, like, what was the thing that you went, oh my God, that makes so much sense. It connected some dots that, I've been trying to figure out for years. I had one woman text me at 10:30 at night. And she's like, I'm so sorry. I hope you're not even going to get this, but I just took the Ellie and it just gave me more than what I've been trying to freaking figure out the last entire year with my therapist. And she's like, I'm blown away. So
Amazing.
go take the
Amazing.
Ellie. My gift
Yes, I
to you.
certainly will. Yes. Thank you so much, Rihanna. I think this has been so incredible. Like, really, I keep using the word incredible, so I will stop. But I think this has been so special in that there is a way to actually understand ourselves so that we can have breakthrough and that we can claim the woman that we want to be. Like, really, that's it. I love it. I love it. Well, thank you so much for being on the show today. Our time has gone by
Oh,
so quickly. Oh my gosh.
I know.
And I'm just blessed. And everyone we put this live on Facebook so everyone can see it right away, and it'll be in the podcast, all the show notes, the link to Ellie. Please do it. I think it's such a great invite to really dig deep about yourself, understand, have clarity, right? And claim that woman that you're supposed to be. So thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you. So I really hope everyone enjoyed the show today. I really hope, and I know it did, that this is really going to help you go from fed up to faith fueled, helping you to become the wise, divine woman that you've been called to be. Thanks for joining us.